Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 One Sustainability Conference, our annual global sustainability event. We now have the pleasure to welcome Steve Melink, the founder and CEO of Melink Corporation. And Steve will be telling us more about mainstreaming net zero energy buildings today. Steve, I hand over to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Hi, everyone, and good morning. Again, my topic is mainstreaming net zero energy buildings today. The picture you see there is our corporate campus from Melink Corporation. The building in the foreground is the brand new net zero energy building we just designed and built. The one in the background, the tan colored building, is one we built 15 years ago, initially as a LEED gold certified building, but then we improved it to LEED platinum existing building, and then over time to net zero energy. But I wanted the opportunity to start from scratch with a clean slate based on all the best practices that have emerged over the subsequent years and see if I could design and build a net zero energy building that would be viewed as being practical and profitable. So, why do we even want to undertake this topic? I think there are several strategic benefits to looking at net zero energy buildings above and beyond the energy savings. There are potentially transmission and distribution savings that you see on your utility bill, demand savings, again, charges that you see on your utility bill. It will increase the value of your asset. It's an opportunity to enhance your brand. As a company, nothing is more important, of course, than your brand. Doing the right thing and creating this green environment often yields higher employee productivity. And lastly, we haven't yet achieved this goal, or benefit, but it could be more resilient than the grid if you also add a battery storage system. Well, who am I to talk about net zero energy buildings? I started my journey in 1987, I started my business, Melink Corporation, but it wasn't until 15 years later that I went to my first green building seminar and became inspired by the 2030 vision, which is that all new buildings should be designed and built to be net zero energy by 2030. Well, I'm here to talk to you in 2022 that goal is achievable today. We don't have to wait another 8 years to get there. What do we do as a company that put us in the position to know more about this? Well, first of all, I got started in HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and been the founder, CEO, and chairman of that organization for over 30 years. And then about 12 years ago, I started Melink Solar, and we're doing projects all across the country. What we do is design and install solar arrays for companies to help them save energy. And we work with companies ranging from LinkedIn to Amazon, P&G, NextEra, and many others. And these are just a few photographs of projects we've done. Of course, we can put it on the roofs of buildings, as well as ground space that a building owner might have, and even solar canopies over the parking lots to not only generate energy, but provide shaded parking. And if you're really thinking about the future, to have charging stations for the electric cars. In fact, this is our HQ2 with our own solar canopy, and we want to live what the workplace of the future should be. So getting back to mainstreaming net zero energy, our goal for HQ2 was first and foremost to set the goal that the cost premium of going NZE would be less than 15% of the overall cost. My thought was that would be an appropriate threshold to set, that if you go too much higher than 15%, a lot of building owners just won't invest that extra amount. And anything less than 15%, it kind of begs the question, if we can go net zero for less than 15%, why isn't everybody doing it? But I also set the additional goals that there would be no out of pocket for this premium, and therefore it would generate net positive cash flow from the energy savings. So, what were the top best practices that we implemented? Number one, we went with super insulation for our building. There you see the spray foam. We are taking advantage of a lot of natural light, which of course employees love, and then complemented it with LED lighting. We have a geothermal heat pump system. Geothermal is widely considered the most energy efficient way to heat and cool buildings. And we have an energy recovery ventilator with dedicated outside air unit. Basically what this is to ensure you have proper fresh air in your building to keep the occupants healthy and comfortable. Lastly, our strategy was to offset the building electric loads with a solar PV system that could help our building go net zero energy. What were the actual results? Well, the cost premium of going NZE was only 13%. There was no out of pocket because we used what's called PACE, that stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. It's a way to finance energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements over the long term, like 20 years plus. And we did generate net positive cash flow. Our savings exceeds what our PACE assessments are. And we took advantage of solar financing. There's an investment tax credit that reduces the installed cost by 30%. Again, we utilized PACE financing, which paid for the incremental improvements. And there's a third method that you or other people can take advantage of called a power purchase agreement, where somebody else installs the solar array for you and owns it and bills you for the power being generated. But this is a curve just showing that we did in fact go net zero energy. This is a typical day where the yellow curve on the right going above the blue line shows we're generating in excess of what we're using. And then as we go into nighttime, we actually go below the blue line to show that we're pulling power from the grid. But on average, we're net zero energy for the day and over the course of the year. The proof of the pudding is, what does your utility bill show? And this is our Duke Energy, a recent bill that shows that our amount due was $0. In fact, we had a credit due us of $177. So I won't go into too much of the details, but the cost and benefits. We paid about $500,000 more for a 30,000 square foot building after incentives. This resulted in a simple payback of about 5 years without the PACE, and an actual payback of 2 to 3 years without the PACE, just based on the soft benefits that I alluded to before, and I'll mention again. Bottom line is net zero energy buildings are proven, practical, and profitable today. What are these soft benefits that I mentioned before? It's what I call the HR and PR benefits. It enhances your brand, which allows you to attract better talent, better customers. It results in healthier employees, which creates more productivity. And of course, growth and success from having bigger, better customers and employees results in happier employees. So a key message here is don't underestimate the benefit of what I call soft benefits, and don't just look at the actual energy savings. So I just want to show you the interior of the building. You can see how well naturally lighted it is, the conference rooms we have, the spaciousness, the light airiness of the facility. And so to summarize, what would I say should be your plan A going forward? Well, the plan A should be a holistic approach, and it should embody ideally the 5 net zero energy best practices that I just mentioned: super insulation, day lighting with LEDs, geothermal heat pumps ideally, or air source if that is your next best option, energy recovery and a dedicated outside air unit, and solar PV. I've got 3 of those highlighted in red because I know not everyone who has an existing building can go back and try to super insulate their building or too much change up their outside air delivery system. So if you haven't already done the day lighting, or I'm sorry, the LED lighting, that's the lowest hanging fruit. But you should also look at the opportunity of going geothermal and then solar PV. Of course, net zero energy should ideally mean zero carbon, not just zero energy. And that really means we should all electrify everything. We no longer have to burn natural gas to heat our buildings, to heat our hot water. We have things called heat pumps that can do that. And we have electric cars. We don't have to burn gasoline to get to and from work. And we have solar panels and other technologies that allow us to generate that electricity carbon-free. So when you hear people talk about the 2050 climate pledge, in my view, it's a cop-out. We don't have to wait 30 years to get there. Again, the technologies are there to do it today affordably. We should all have a zero carbon plan for 2022. That is, electrify everything in our buildings and then install and or purchase clean energy. What would be a plan B? Let's say you can't do those 5, what I call best practices for going net zero energy. A very simple alternative would be just to install solar. Why? Because most buildings have a rooftop with some space in which to put solar, or they have a parking lot, or they have adjacent ground space. It has become one of the lowest hanging fruits in the energy efficiency and renewable energy space due to solar costs increasing so much. So here, the yellow curve shows you that solar, the cost has come down so dramatically over the last 10 years that it's in fact the lowest cost of generation and compares very cost effectively to even energy efficiency measures. Or you can go plan C. Let's say you don't have the roof space or a parking lot in which to put solar. The last best alternative would be to buy green power from your utility. So my question to many of my audiences is, what's your brand? What do you stand for? What are you doing to make yourself stand out amongst your competition? I believe that the clean energy revolution that our generation is facing is the greatest opportunity of the 21st century. With the spooling up of the solar industry, the wind power industry, the battery storage industry, the electric car industry, everything is going electric and clean energy. That they're the fastest growing industries around the world, and it portends just great opportunity. I wrote a book called Fusion Capitalism to talk about this great opportunity, that it's not only a great opportunity for our individual businesses, but for our country and the world. So my final message is, let's mainstream net zero energy buildings together and make the US and the world safer, healthier, and more prosperous, and that we can do it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. This is a very thorough presentation and clearly convincing. There was one word I wanted to ask something about, which is the mainstreaming.
Yes.
How do you think the mainstreaming is going?
Well, gosh, every day it seems I'm reading an article or watching in the news about another major car manufacturer quickly transitioning to electric vehicles, or that another utility is installing a major solar or wind farm, or that companies are going net zero energy. So I think that the revolution has begun, and I guess my message is, for those who haven't been following the news as closely as I have, is don't be too late to this great opportunity.
Yeah. And there's a question that came up. By installing geothermal, how much electric energy did your building reduce by in terms of use and demand?
We reduced our HVAC energy usage, I would say about 30% compared to if we had used a conventional HVAC system. In fact, we're doing some exciting things with geothermal. We're trying to cost reduce it in the same way that the solar PV industry has reduced that technology to help it go mainstream. And so we're looking at more cost-effective ways than just drilling boreholes in the ground so that more people can afford to do this and will do this to save energy. So I won't go into details. It goes beyond the scope of this presentation, but we're doing some exciting things with phase change materials to help geothermal go mainstream. But even aside from that, even if it doesn't take a new technology, the existing industry has been around for decades, and there's a new increased tax credit that's available for geothermal. 30% of it can be paid for with a tax credit. So it's starting in 2023 with the tax credits for solar, geothermal, battery storage, et cetera. I think our country is off to the races.
Good. Well, let's hope it takes off. And I want to thank you very much for your presentation. Very helpful. And we look forward to continuing our contact.
Sounds good, James. Thanks for having me.
Thank
All
you
right,
very
take care.
much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.